our school calls it discrete structures. It's math proof. It's it's not discrete math. Discrete math is like a high school level course for people who are going to maybe do college level algebra, and that's about it. Discrete structures is like, mathematical logic, intense stuff like that. Doing actual mathematical proof, making sure you understand the structure, all that good stuff. Let's see. And then my school. Oh yeah, go for it. My school required pretty much anything above sophomore level. You had to take math proof. And then there was actually a like calculus 4 way out here. And a senior level linear algebra. Differential equations, have your partial or nonlinear. It's like 2 separate classes, but you can do whatever you want with it. So you can convert everything to logical language. I don't. I have not done any like actual. See, I was a math education major, so after taking my sophomore level classes, I then had to do a few more in the like upper level stuff, but mostly it was like I started doing more education classes than I did math classes. My junior and senior years were just full of education classes. Real complex analysis. I did one called matrix theory that was out here. Oh, actually, I guess it would technically be off of the linear algebra group. This was a Masters 1. At least in the US it is. And a lot more of these three. Linear algebra, calc 3, and differential equations are so interrelated. In my differential equations class, I have to teach like the major concepts from both of these classes. So gets to be interesting. Calc 2 being a whole lot of like series sequences and integration, like numerical integration, things like that, that feeds into the rest of it. I did a combinatorics class, but I also did I didn't have to do matrix theory for it, but it was really helpful. Neural networks. And I didn't have to take neural networks for it, but data mining. Made it a lot easier when I did neural networks and then I did data mining. Yeah, I mean this tier is basically what you're going to be asking about. Um, yeah. So my spouse took this one, topology here. She did it as a senior in college, so that was fun. The guy she had was pretty great, pretty mild mannered compared to a lot of the other people in the division or department, but and yeah, neural networks was fun. I would probably not be doing that here on this channel, but it's been a long time since I took it. I will say that there is a free book for neural networks. Granted, you know, it's probably a little bit above your pay grade at the moment, but you know, it's cool. I'll link it here because why not? Is it that one? Does abstract algebra explain linear algebra? Abstract algebra really tells you like why everything works, and the way that we did abstract involved a lot of like you need to now prove like why commutation works. Why are you allowed to do the commutative property? So prove that. Go on. It was kind of insane. I did a little bit of that when I talked about the Xena project. So when I did the Xena project here, so really the thing is like, what do you know as of that point? Like, what are you allowed to prove commutation with? And part of it could potentially be like like you have left and right addition, and you also have the additive inverse property. So if you add on the left the additive inverse of whatever you had, then that takes it away. And then you can also add it to the add it to the right, but how does that work? That's what I'm trying to do here. I don't remember. Anyway. Essentially. So it starts you over at nearly 0 and says, like, here's what you know about math, then create the rest of the structures that exist. So you could, in fact, and this is what our linear algebra professor actually did. Both my spouse's original linear algebra 1 and our, because we took it together, linear algebra 2 professor. He was nuts. He created his own notation, and everything was everything was completely different than what the standard notation is, because he was trying to make a point about it. And I didn't get it because I was 22 and what do I care? I just want to like figure this stuff out and move on. Which really was not a good attitude for me to have, but you know, I didn't really get out of that attitude for quite a while. Going now, if I went back now, it'd be a lot better. More annoying real analysis. Yeah, somewhat. So abstract, we did as junior level, and real analysis was senior level. So like, abstract algebra was breaking it down and saying, why are you allowed to do any of this stuff at all? Linear algebra was like, what are the symbols we're using a y? It's also senior level. Real analysis was, okay, what are the rigorous definitions of all this stuff? So you want to do a two-dimensional limit? Cool. You have a point, you have a distance. Within this area, you know, if you're trying to find a limit, then you're saying, like, within this small, arbitrarily small section, you know, this rule will exist. And then why does that work? Explain. Complex analysis was like really weird, because all that stuff went out the window, and complex analysis was like, okay, we're just going to get back to like doing calculus stuff. I mean, it's essentially calculus 4. But complex analysis was like, okay, we're going to take the integral of some weird thing that, like, you know, x sine of x dx, and say, okay, this from 1 to 4 is like, you know, going to do this. Nope. It's going to do this thing. I think, right? Yeah. So we want to find the area between like here and here. All right. How do you find the area between here and here? Well, there isn't a nice way to do this integral, at least not that I'm coming up with off the top of my head, but you never know. I could just be completely ignoring something obvious. So when you're taking this particular integral and trying to find the area under the curve, you might say, for instance, that, well, this doesn't make any sense as it stands. So what we're going to do is say, we're going to translate this via some sort of transformation into an integral. It's a residue. What's the notation for that? I don't even remember. But you're trying to find the residue of some stuff, which then basically ends up being like, do some calculations in complex numbers, and then this ends up becoming like, what is the area of a semicircle that is centered on this particular point? Let's say x equals 2 with a radius of 1. So this is going to be 1, this is going to be 3. So now we're just trying to find what's the area of a semicircle. And then, okay, that's 1/2 pi r squared. And oh, look at that, we just found out that what this is. This is going to get us 1/2 times pi times the radius is 1. So that's it. It's pi over 2. Then you say, okay, now we need to transformation, do the reverse transformation. So do the transformation, you get this residue, which is on complex numbers. Do this stuff, transform it back, and then you get a number that's like, I don't know, I mean, I'm not going to come up with anything useful, but like, you know, pi over 2 times some constant k times some value of like the stuff that's in between here. So like the sign of 4 or something like that. So you get like all this stuff and it just dumps on the page and you look at it and go, wow, that really cleaned everything up. Like it just got me a number. It seemed insane the first time that I did this because I was like, well, how did that work? That should not have worked. I have no idea what advanced calculus is necessarily going to be. Me personally, I thought multivariate was basically starting all over again. This is mostly numerical and integration methods. Linear algebras, matrices, differential equations, that's just differential equations. Okay, so it's probably doing analysis on calculus, just generally. Yeah, it seems reasonable. Starting with inequalities and sets to limits. Yeah, so he's probably bringing in the like very rigorous definitions to calculus, whatever it may be. Yeah, oh, definitely. Multimedia is going to be kind of the name of the game for the next 20 years. I mean, I'm going to essentially make my career out of that, I hope. Where I'm just going to be like trying to build up my library as big as possible so that I can teach students in a number of different ways, and I hope I can get there. We'll see how it goes.